Welcome to Friends in Fiction, 5 best-selling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristen Harmel, Christy Woodson Harvey, Patty Callahan Henry, and Mary Alice Monroe are 5 longtime friends with more than 80 published books to their credit. In 2020, they created Friends in Fiction to provide author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, and to highlight independent bookstores. These friends discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the happiest hour on the internet, Friends in Fiction. Welcome to our show. We have so much to look forward to tonight. I'm Christy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
I'm Kristen Harmel.
I'm Patty Callahan Henry.
And this is Friends in Fiction, New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support independent bookstores. Tonight, you will meet Emily Henry, and we'll talk about her new book, People We Meet on Vacation, which was released in May, and find out about what inspires Emily, how she conquers writer's block, and much more.
But before we get going, we have something really big to celebrate. Our Facebook group. Woo! Okay. Oh, I should say what it is. So I'm kidding. Our Facebook group, y'all, you beautiful, wonderful community. Oh,
I love it so much.
I don't have a hat nearby. I do have the Santa hat, but it's not time yet. Okay, y'all out there, this beautiful, amazing Facebook group community that was only started last April has just hit 50,000 members strong.
50,000!
Wow.
50,000! We could never have imagined a milestone so huge when we started this group. And we are doing nothing but growing. And we are so grateful to each and every one of you for being part of this meaningful, positive part of our lives.
Oh, it means so much. 50,000. I mean, can you imagine if someone had told us last April that this is where we'd be standing in a year and a half?
Or sitting as usual, but yeah.
Sitting as usual. Talking about that, we are always sitting.
Yeah,
we should do a show standing up. See what happens.
Really should.
Yeah.
He's like, no, veto.
Exactly. All right. So we have updated our Friends in Fiction bookshop.org shop with tonight's guest, Emily Henry's books. So you can get this summer's blockbuster bestseller, that's a tongue twister, People We Meet on Vacation, and last year's smash hit, Beach Read, in our shop for less than $15 each. And remember, every purchase you make from the Friends in Fiction bookshop.org store helps us to keep Friends and Fiction going, right? We want to hit 100,000, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
We will.
Everybody. And
No
a portion of proceeds goes directly into the pockets of independent booksellers nationwide, which of course goes to the very heart of our mission. Since its inception, bookshop.org has raised $16 million for independent booksellers.
Wow.
$16 million. Now that is a number we can get behind. Find all our guests' new books and those by the Fab Five in our specially curated shop on bookshop.org. So support indie stores and nationwide with bookshop.org from the comfort of your own home, sitting or standing, and tell them that Friends in Fiction sent you.
Well, it's a big night around here because guess what? We have another trailer reveal for you. Our own Mary Kay's amazing The Santa Suit releases in less than 2 weeks. Are you panicking yet?
I can't believe that.
I know.
Yes, I am.
Does this mean I'm supposed to be decorating or doing Christmas cards or any of that?
You're so behind.
Christmas cards. I'm behind. Oh, I ordered my wreaths yesterday, but we want to
really?
So we want to share her trailer tonight. So Sean, can you do the honors?
my gosh, I'm so excited for this. I'm reading it right now. It is so good so far. And you know what? I love that the trailer said Christmas comes early, because if there's ever a year where we needed that, right? So, Mary Kay, can you tell us a little bit about the Santa suit?
Yeah, last fall, because of pandemic, there was nothing to do and nowhere to go. I finished The Newcomers, my book that was out in May. I finished it early for the first time in my long career. And we had actually been on a retreat together, right? Our Friends in Fiction retreat.
Yep.
We kind of knocked around the idea of doing a Christmas book or Christmas anthology. And I was like, no, I am not doing a Christmas book. No. And then driving home, I don't know if it was from there. I know I called Patty and I said, I have an idea. And we went away together. Where did we go? We go to Bluffton, Patty?
No, we went to the mountains.
We went to the mountains. That's right. Went to Cashers. And so the story is about a young woman. Her name is Ivy Perkins. She's just out of a bad divorce. And she decides she's going to completely change her life. She's going to move to a new house in a new town and start all over. And she decides that she wants to buy an old white farmhouse in the mountains. And so she buys one sight unseen that she finds online. And she and her dog Pumpkin load up and move to the mountains of North Carolina the week before Christmas. And in this old house, she finds a Santa suit on the closet. And the suit has some magical powers. And the magic is really just that Ivy kind of looks within herself and finds the spirit of Christmas again. So it's a sweet, I hope, funny Christmas book. And I just wanted to bring some light into the darkness this year. And I hope that's what I've done.
It's if y'all have never been around Mary Kay Andrews which you haven't, when she's thinking of a new story, it's quite something to watch what she calls her chaos brain, because she gets an idea and it's like, how it rains and you go to bed and you come out in the morning and there's mushrooms that appeared overnight. That's Kathy. She rains and like a story just popped up on the lawn of her mind. It's kind of
you saying the stories come out of doo-doo? That are mushrooms grow on doo-doo?
No, out of green grass and rain. Okay. And that, I don't know where that came from.
It was actually, I was thinking great. How it was really great. Yeah. Like off the cuff. It was
good analogy. Yeah.
I was just thinking about how she's driving home and she's like, and the next thing you know, there's this whole story.
I think my favorite part is it came from, no, I'm not going to write a Christmas story. And she was like, yes.
And now we know how to get her to do something.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome.
You're welcome. So every week we partner with Parade Magazine online and we stream from their Facebook page and we have an original essay in their online magazine. And this week, Christy reflected on why everything she ever needed to know, almost everything, she learned on a tennis court. You can find it on our Facebook page under announcements and also on our Instagram bio. But Christy, tell us a little bit about that essay. It's so awesome.
Well, it's kind of funny because little Will and I were reading Pat Conroy's My Losing Season. And for some reason, I started watching Friday Night Lights, 10 years later, or however long it's been.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about all these sports things. And as you read in the article, semi-recently, there was an article in my local newspaper about my long dead high school tennis career that was pretty interesting and just made me start thinking about so many things in our lives and just how sometimes our failures and the things that we think are like the worst mistakes that we've ever made and the worst things that can happen to us, which I mean, how bad can it be if you lose a tennis match? But when you're 18 and 17, it feels like a big deal. But how so often those can be new beginnings and there are these great silver linings in these situations that we really didn't expect. And so I wanted to ask each of you tonight what life lessons you have learned in unexpected places, starting with Mary Kay, the mushroom queen.
I was thinking about this and I sort of thought reading obituaries, I'm a great obituary reader. Mm-hmm. And I'm always interested in the things that that people say about the departed, and it's not the things you expect. It's that she volunteered for Cub Scouts. She was she was the room mother, or she was the Cub Scout leader, or she mentored so many people in her law firm. And it reminds me that the things that matter when you're gone are not the awards and not all those kinds of kudos that you've gotten. It's not a plaque on a wall. It's the good deeds you've done while you're on earth. And I think that kind of always reminds me. I hope people will say, well, she wrote some books, but she was a terrible person. I hope they will say that when I'm gone.
We won't let them.
When the bus hits me.
That's not even possible for them to say. I think for me, it's definitely not a sports metaphor. So we're just going to have to skip that. We're just going to have to skip that with Bookworm Patty.
You've done a really good metaphor tonight. So you're off.
Okay. Am I off the hook for?
Yeah.
Okay. Bookworm Patty wasn't playing any sports.
You've given us Mushroom K. Andrews. So what more can you give?
Thank you.
I think for me, it's not that you learn unexpected lessons by being a mom, but I really it is consistent learning the same lesson over and over about how exactly what we expect to happen doesn't happen, and about what we don't think will happen does. There's this, we go into things with a certain mindset, and the only thing that's certain is that it won't do what we're expecting it to do. So
that's so true.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I was thinking about this as you guys were talking, and I think one of the most powerful lessons I've learned in a place I didn't expect was right here on Friends in Fiction with all of you who I'm sharing the screen with, but also with the group as a whole. I think if you had asked me a year and a half ago, well, I maybe not if you had asked me, but if I were being honest with myself, I think I would have thought I'm not enough. You know what I mean? I write books, and I don't know. I think I never felt like enough.
Oh my goodness.
But until this last year and a half. And I think between the three of you and then this community that's embraced all of us, I think I've been reminded that there's a place for all of us. And sometimes the best thing you can be is just yourself. Be the best version of yourself rather than always thinking of the things that you're not. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And so thank you to all of you, to you three, and to all of you out there for reminding me of that lesson that I think I've learned too late in my life.
That is amazing. Oh my
wow,
gosh.
now I have mascara.
No,
Okay.
I really did think today, and I said this on Facebook, but I do feel like in some ways, doing this with all of you kind of reminded me what it was like to be a part of a team. And every day there's something new thrown at you, and every day there's something that you don't expect. And, but it doesn't
we
matter.
Solve it together.
You're together, and you can disagree on something, or you can have you can be in a bad mood that day, or it doesn't matter, because you're getting out on the court and you are going to beat the Jackets from Lexington. Yeah. But whatever it is,
that's hilarious.
It's that team vibe where you're kind of your real self at some point, which I think a lot of times we don't really see that in each other. Outside of this. Okay, so let's talk about our incredible guest, Emily Henry. And I did want to just remind everybody, we will hopefully be taking live questions. So make sure to drop your questions for Emily into the chat, wherever you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, because hopefully we'll get to some of them. But she, as you know, is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of several novels, including People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read.
Her books have been featured. I'm going to give you a list, but I'm also going to say everywhere.
Everywhere.
Her books have been featured in Oprah, Entertainment Weekly, The Skimm, Bustle, everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, Emily studied creative writing at Hope College and the New York Center for Art and Media Studies. These days, she spends most of her time in Cincinnati and the part of Kentucky just underneath it.
Kentucky, that makes me want to go there for the Bourbon Trail again. Anyhow, Her new book, People We Meet on Vacation, was released in May and follows two best friends, Poppy and Alex, on their annual summer vacations. After an incident causes them to lose touch for 2 years, the pair decides to reunite for one final trip, which may very well be their last chance to save their relationship.
Awesome.
Hi.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I have to say, I was just like alternating between laughing hysterically and like tearing up listening to all of you talk.
I know now I have to fix the mascara situation. But yeah.
Well, we're so glad you're here. We're huge fans. And I
Yep,
actually
of course.
saved People We Meet on Vacation to help me get out of my end of summer slump. And it totally delivered. But I always have to have something that I'm like looking forward to reading at the end of summer so that I don't feel so depressed about summer being over.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I think the exact opposite, where like I am so ready for fall reads, and watching that trailer for Mary Kay's Christmas book.
thanks.
I'm
Oh,
just like,
you're ready.
yes, I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready. Give it,
Well,
just like inject it into my veins.
I totally get that. I'm ready. It's starting to cool off a little, and I'm getting there now. I'm getting
It's
there.
dark earlier.
Yeah.
I noticed when we were getting ready tonight.
It's happening. It's happening. But can you tell us about your wonderful new novel, please?
Sure. Okay, so I will mostly, I guess, be recapping, but People We Meet on Vacation follows Alex and Poppy, who are just two oddballs in their own distinct ways. And when they meet, they don't really hit it off. They kind of just despise each other instantly, like on principle. They're really, really different. But in that difference, it weirdly creates this really fertile ground for a great friendship, because there's just no kind of like bending yourself to, meet someone's expectations. They're just so different. They both think that there's no hope for their friendship. And that is actually what creates such a special bond between the two of them. And like you were saying, they take a yearly trip even after they both graduate from college and move to different cities. Poppy is working as a travel journalist in New York, and Alex is back in their hometown in Ohio working as a teacher. And I don't know, it was just a lot of fun to write. I did not write it during a pandemic, but I edited it during the pandemic. And so it really was like, oh, thank God, I can just like disappear into this and pretend to be traveling. And yeah, I just kind of like stuffed it with everything I like. And it's sort of an ode to When Harry Met Sally at its core. So that was kind of a
favorite
different point.
movie.
The
My
best
favorite
movie. The best movie.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, well, so a review of People We Meet on Vacation on Shondaland, no less, says Henry has made a name for herself in taking typical romance novel tropes and adding modern twists. And if you are indeed a fan of romance novel tropes, which I am, and obviously lots of people are, then you've come to the right place. And in her new novel, People We Meet on Vacation, we've got friends to lovers. We've got opposites attract. We've got slow burns. Oh my God, I love a slow burn.
Me too.
And almost moments. And this
So good.
novel has got it all. It is all the better for it. A lot of people have discarded the idea of a rom-com. They're coming back into vogue, thankfully.
Yeah.
But tell me, what inspired you to write in this genre? And did you know you were writing in it?
I did, but I actually wasn't sure if anyone else would think that I was. What happened was, I had been publishing YA novels. I had like a very mid-list career, meaning I had some readers, but actually, hardly anyone had heard of me. My bookstore events, as we were talking before we started this, were largely empty. And I had been doing that for a few years and I loved it, but I also was very burnt out. I was like writing these coming of age stories and I felt like I'd kind of said everything I had to say about that, like time in life. And then 2016 rolled around and the world felt very chaotic and unpredictable and scary. And I was just not in a great place mentally and emotionally. And so I had kind of some downtime between projects and I thought, I'm going to just write like my version of a rom-com. And I didn't have any plans to sell it. I really just thought like, I need to do something nice Yeah. And it's like, it's so rare once you start publishing, because you kind of get onto that train and you're like, I have to do a book every year, and like whatever, just all of the kind of like structure of it. But it just worked out where I was like, I have this time, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to worry about if anyone wants to read it, if anyone likes it. And it was so fun. It was so fun to write a book that like I really didn't think anyone wanted. And certainly nobody specifically like expected from me. And I did just set it aside when I was done. And I think like 2 years went by, and then I kind of noticed that rom-coms in fiction were starting to have like this big boom with Jasmine Guillory and Helen Huang and Sally Thorne, just kind of seeing like, oh, you know, like kind of the like cutesy illustrated cover rendition of romance novels where they're sort of like, let's get new readers in. And I was watching this sort of blow up. And so I emailed my agent and was like, I think I wrote one of these a couple of years ago. And I'm not positive that's what I wrote, but I think that's what I wrote. And so I sent it to her, and she was really excited about it. But also didn't like totally know how to sell into that. She was mostly a YA agent. And she, you know, she recommended some books for me to read. So I started reading really widely in the genre, and like was like, yes, I love this. This feels good. This is just nice. And then when she actually retired from agenting, I went to my current agent, who was like specifically just like cornering the romance market. And yeah, I don't know. It's like that kind of cliche advice that like every writer gives to every other writer, which is like, write what you want to read.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, I want to say, and it is true, but the fact is like, I was writing what I wanted to read before that, and it wasn't selling, and that happens too. But I think the point is your greatest joy is always going to come from that feeling of making what you actually want to make. And so if you're trying to just like crack the market and come up with like, this is what people want, you don't believe in it, it's not gonna be something you end up being really proud of, and you're not gonna have a really blissful couple of months working on a book, which is like kind of like the feeling I'm always chasing. I don't know about all of y'all. That's the best feeling.
It's the best.
I have a
feeling.
bone to pick with you though, Emily.
that?
I'm reading Beach Read, and she talks about when she first goes away to the lake house, and she tells her agent, I can write a book in 3 months. I can write a book in half that time. And I'm like, all right, who is this person? This is fiction, right?
Well, that was me in 2016.
Okay, just checking.
Emily does not.
Okay, just checking on that.
That's funny.
Yes, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of funny because, you know, I think the other thing is like, obviously like the dream for so many of us is like to get to the point where writing can be like the day job. But it also is really funny how like, once you leave your other day job, you're like, why am I not getting any more done?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's like when you send the kids to school and you're like, oh my gosh, I have these, and then
you're like,
Yeah. I have no
those hours
idea about that.
disappear.
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I accidentally blinked and like now have seen 3 seasons of Felicity, but like,
And now I have to pick them up.
Still a mess.
Yeah.
Time to go get them.
So funny.
Emily, I'm asking this because I have such a hard time balancing it. You are super open about your life on social media, and you're not only a huge advocate for other authors, which I love. I love watching when you're posting.
All of you.
Yeah, but it's also you take the time to let your readers and followers do the ask you anything. So how do you, here's what I know all of us talk about all the time. How do you balance being a person who everyone wants to know and maybe even feels like they do know, while also being able to turn into your work and produce these gorgeous stories? How do you balance that?
That is so hard. And I like selfishly would rather just have all of you answer it. And actually like what I really want is like, we're in a room on the Bourbon Trail and
That'd be good.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
4
I like
hours
bourbon.
to talk about this. Yeah.
We're there. We're in.
All right.
We're doing it, Emily.
All right.
Yes.
Honestly, sign me up. Yes. Yeah, it's so hard. And I don't know, I'm present on Instagram, but that's the only social media I'm on, which helps. Like, I think when I was trying to do multiple things, I realized something was always falling to the wayside, but it is so hard and strange because on the one hand, you're like, wow, what a gift to be able to interact directly with readers. But on the other hand, you're like, I don't know. It is so hard to turn your focus away from that and to go into writer mode instead of like personality. Like I'm an Instagram personality or whatever. And I think like the big thing for me was I did have a lot of struggles initially trying to figure out like, how am I going to use Instagram? Because it's like, obviously the thing that I think we're all craving is like authentic human connection, but it's so hard to be authentic when you're seeing yourself and you're typing it out, and it's just really, really hard. And I realized like, oh, the only thing that like doesn't really give me any stress when it comes to Instagram is talking about other people's books that I love. Like that only feels good and feels easy, and it doesn't feel like it costs me very much. It's like I have to take a pretty picture and like then write a caption, but it's like that's an easy enough way to engage that I feel like actually has value. And then the Ask Me Anythings that I was doing and will continue to do, like that honestly came out of watching some, this was like my second time debuting because I had a YA career before this, but I was watching kind of some of the debut authors of 2020 when I debuted with Beach Read, and like seeing their struggles and how much they didn't know like what they were going through was normal. And before all of this, we were all talking about like our worst bookstore events and like the awkwardness and the humiliation when you're there with another author. It's like when you invite the whole class to your birthday party and it's like worse when one kid shows up. Because then you're like, well, now my mom has to take me to like the McDonald's play place with this one kid I barely know. It actually didn't happen to me. It sounds like I like am pulling from like deep dark trauma.
It happened to a friend.
It happened. It's like clear in my head. Maybe it did, and I just like blocked it out. But like
maybe it was a mushroom.
It was a mushroom. It was a mushroom. But yeah, so I like have totally lost the like rope descending with the anchor at this point. So social media, talking about the AMAs I was doing. So I was watching debut authors kind of struggle and knowing, like realizing, oh, they don't know that what's happening to them is normal. Like I was watching them kind of share in different forums what was going on, and like having kind of the heartbreak that a lot of people don't realize kind of goes with publishing, because you have this personal experience and this thing that's kind of like this little baby to you, and then you share it with the world. And even when it's well received, there's like a weird grief and pain that goes with it. So it kind of started from that, just realizing like we're not really set up as authors. Like our publishers do a great job with a lot of things, but the kind of emotional end of it is not their job, and that's fair. But like you just don't get prepared for a lot of things. So I kind of just dove into that and was really surprised how like hungry for it people were. And so it really just kind of feels like the thing that I can do. As far as balance, I like when I'm writing, when I'm actively drafting, I really ease off of social media. And it's more like when I'm editing, I feel like I use social media to like not be editing.
Not doing my job.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
It's just like a little click here, a little click there, a little click here.
Exactly. You know I'm on deadline if I'm like very active on Instagram.
Right. For sure.
So
or you get like a dead end, or I know.
Yes.
Just for fun, what's one of the weirdest things you've ever been asked on your Ask Me Anythings or on your Instagram at all?
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know there have been some really weirdly specific ones on the AMAs. Sometimes there are two that come to mind that aren't that weird. They're not that weird. So if you sent these in, if somebody who's watching sent these in, don't feel bad. They're not that weird, but it just surprised me. The first is I get a lot of pitches for what should happen in sequels to my books.
I like that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I am like daunted by it too. I like try not to read them because I'm also like a very paranoid person. I'm like, what if someday I wake up and I have the urge to write a sequel and it happens to be the same thing that someone pitched me, and I like go down the plot by Jean. It's like that's what happens.
Plagiarism.
Yeah, I'm just like, don't tell me anything, you guys. And they're always like volunteering it. Like, you can have this, please write this. But that, and then I also lately, I think because I have like a surprising number of like younger readers, like not from my YA days, from my romance days, I get a lot of messages that are like, hey, it's my friend or my girlfriend's birthday. Can you send a happy birthday video? And I haven't done it because one, I get a lot of them and I'm just like, I can't sign up for this. Like if I do it once.
If you do it once,
Yes.
Floodgates.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then two, I am so paranoid that I'm like, what if this is like some kind of phishing scam and they get my voice and then they can like access my bank? I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah.
anything works. So like,
We don't either.
yeah, I'm just
Why
like,
do we
Yeah.
talk about something and then there's an ad on our phone? I don't.
Yes,
I don't like
that
it.
happens
It's not
a
good.
creepy amount of time.
I
Exactly.
know. It's
Yeah.
Why
so
do we
scary.
think about something and it's on our phone?
Right.
It's too much. It's too
Exactly.
far.
I know, exactly. So, Emily, you wrote in a really fascinating piece for Zoella about what happened after you were finished with your YA novel, A Million Junes.
Mhm.
You said, and I love this, I love this because I could identify with it so much. It used me up, that book. And when I was done with it, I had no idea where to go next. My writer's block was short-lived but intense, a complete kind of mental emptiness I'd never experienced before, in which I found surprisingly painful. I had only just discovered why I needed writing so much, and then it felt like writing had abandoned me. I had no ideas. I was a dried out sponge. Oh my gosh, I love that. 'Cause seriously,
We've all
like
been there.
we've all been there, but it's like even there are even bits and pieces of every single book process where I find myself at that moment where you just so I guess I'm wondering, what do you do to conquer writer's block? And what advice do you have for writers out there who are experiencing it, like perhaps some little ones of us here right now?
Yes.
No.
No one in this virtual room has ever experienced writer's block. It's okay. It's so tricky because I do feel like any writing advice comes with the caveat that like, if it doesn't work for you, abandon it. Like that's how I operate. That's how I feel. But for me, I have realized a lot of my writer's block really, I mean, with A Million Junes, it was specifically like, I really had emptied myself out. I had no ideas left. I needed to go live my life.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard when you feel like you're on a roll or have momentum or have a schedule to keep to where you're just like, I'm not allowed to not have any ideas. I can't go live my life. I can go see friends, whatever. But I have really found that the bulk of my writer's block is actually just a fear of failure. And it's that feeling when you have an idea for a book, but you don't feel like you can get it into the shape that it has in your head yet. Or even like, sometimes it really is like no ideas for a scene. But the thing is, like, I could just start writing it and open this floodgate, or at least trickle in myself. Yeah. But there's the fear holding back of like, what if I try and the words don't come?
Yep.
Or what if I try and they're so bad and they're unusable? And I've really gotten to the point since I had that realization where now I write, even if I have nothing to say, which again is not necessarily advice for everyone. That could just be torture for most people. But as someone who tends to draft fairly quickly, I try to honor like a daily word count. And if I don't know what comes next, I will literally have my characters go to the grocery store or just like do mundane things, because eventually if I put my phone away and I'm not like on social media, not on the internet, and I really commit to it, if I just have my characters wander, eventually I'll figure out something interesting to happen. And so a lot gets cut in my later drafts. And so that's not like, a reasonable approach for a lot of people. But for me, it's so freeing to get past that blank, that blank page that's so intimidating.
Well, it's such a good point, because I feel like so much of what you're doing during that time is talking to your characters, right? And like giving them the opportunity to talk back to you, which sometimes is just the thing that has to happen. I also think it's really interesting, Emily, that you really had your huge breakout success at a time when you did take your foot off the gas a little bit, right? Like you just gave yourself permission to write the book that like your inside was saying, I need to write. And I think that's a really good lesson. I think that's a good lesson, because I think it can be really tempting to just go along that same path with that forward momentum and just think I have to keep going. I have to keep going. So along those lines, I'm wondering, what for you would you consider the most fulfilling part of being a writer?
And can I request that everybody give me their answers after this too?
Sure.
This is the most excruciating conversation because I have all these interesting people here, and I just like want to hear your answers.
We're in charge here.
I'm gonna demand answers. So I think for me, it really is when drafting is going well, nothing feels better than when I like forget I'm writing. That is just the best feeling when you look up and it's kind of gotten dark, but you didn't get up to turn on the lamp. Like that feeling, I think, is what I'm just constantly chasing. And it's the same feeling as reading something you really love, where you forget you're reading and you can't do anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that idea of getting lost in your own story, right? Like that's the way you can get lost in other books. That is a feeling worth chasing. I agree.
That's my favorite part too. I mean, definitely, for sure. And I mean, I know I didn't say this. I'm sure I got it from somewhere, but I think it's like falling in love, because it's all you want to just when you have those moments, really, you just want to get back to your manuscript, and that's all you can think about. And like every conversation you're having in real life, you're really thinking about what's going on over here. And it's like the greatest feeling in the world. It's like, I think the thing that keeps us going when I'm like,
yes,
I hate these stupid line edits, and what are these questions? And why are they asking me this? And then I'm like, it's okay. I'll have another manuscript. I'm going to fall in love again.
Exactly.
I think my answer is like it toggles between two, the most fulfilling part of being a writer. Because when I imagined having a published book, 20 years ago, I imagined that the most fulfilling part would be seeing my name on a book in a store, which is amazing, and hitting the list and the good news. But honestly, I toggle between what you just said, Emily, this like falling down, and there they are. You've been looking for them, those people to do this thing for months, and all of a sudden but then on the toggle side, on the other side, it's the writing community and the reading.
Yes.
Right? Like, who knew that was waiting? They're the best people in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Mary Kay?
I think it's chasing that rush of, the day that you wrote a paragraph, maybe more than a paragraph, where you went, and so that's what you're chasing, because you tell yourself, I'll never write that paragraph again.
Yeah.
But maybe if I keep writing over and over and over and over again, I'll write something as good as that. Or maybe, who knows, something even better. And so I think that's sort of what keeps me going is, maybe I could get better at this, because I never feel I'm any good at it. I'm riddled with self-doubt and self-loathing. And I was telling them I hit 100,000 words today on my book that's due in 2 weeks. And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. But, when you I wrote a good paragraph, I wrote a good scene yesterday. And so when I went to bed last night, I thought to myself, okay, you did that. You could do that again. You can do that again. So that's for me.
And sometimes you don't know you wrote that great thing you're talking about, Emily and Mary Kay, until you reread it and you're like, oh,
yeah, like it feels like garbage. I mean, even hearing that Zoella essay, we were talking earlier too about like the stress of all of the essays that you have to write before release. And I remember I was on vacation when I was supposed to be writing that, and it was the end of the night, and I was just like, I cannot write a single word. I'm like, what is happening to me? I feel sick to my stomach. And so I asked for an extension, and it was like I had to write 1,000 words or something. And it was like, you would think that I had been asked to like translate the Bible from its like original languages. Just like, this is so much work. And
from the original Aramaic, not even the Greek.
Right. We're going all the way back.
I think it's just sometimes you can't handle one more thing. It's like, I just can't do one more. I can't do anything else.
Yes, 100%.
Kristen, you didn't really answer. What about you?
Yeah.
I think I always forget at the beginning of writing a book how much I can fall into the joy of that journey of writing it. Because I feel so intimidated by that blank page amount that you have to do, or by the fact that you don't really know those characters yet. So I would say one of the things is just getting into the flow of the book and realizing, like, a complete revelation out of nowhere. Like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like, these characters are speaking to me. I do know this story. But like, you just have that paralyzing fear until you get there, right? Yeah. And then I think the other part that's so fulfilling, which I think I had not forgotten about, but I had pushed to the back before getting out physically on the road for a week this year before the Delta variant hit, and suddenly, we're worrying again. But the number of people who come up and tell you in person that like your book spoke to them this way or that way, or, you know, even just receiving those emails from people. That's it. Like that reminder of like, okay, that's why we do this, because like this book that I wrote in my little home office could mean something to somebody somewhere. And like, how amazing is that? How lucky are we? How lucky are we all?
We're the luckiest.
What a neat thing to get to do, right?
It's so great. It really is. And like I got one of those this morning from a lady, and I emailed her back, and I was like, literally, this was the best start to my day that you could possibly imagine.
Yes.
She was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you emailed me back."
And I'm like, I said, I can't believe you answered.
I'm like, I'm definitely going to answer. You said something really nice. Now it's gone the other way.
Then I'll answer. I just won't hit send because you're talking me off the ledge.
Right. Or I'll send my answer to Patty and ask her if I should send it, and she says no.
I love that. But it's so true. I don't know if readers really know like the full extent of what kind of an honor that feels like to be like, oh, I'm like in your life. I'm like in your house. Something I made that like left me and just floated down the river, made its way to you. And it's such a weird, strange honor. And I think
it is.
I don't think that they really can, if they haven't, you know, made something like that and shared it, then I don't think they know like how valuable that is and what an honor it feels like to us.
But on the flip side, like until I became an author, I would never have like sent an author something telling them how much I love their book, because I would have been like, they don't want to hear from me.
Or they must get a million.
And now I do.
I love to fangirl. I love to fangirl and send people fangirl notes and say, you know, I love this scene in your book and you touched something. And I know it means a lot to me when I get a note like that. So I try to do it.
Well, so speaking of weird, strange honors, you have accomplished so much, from being a nominee for Jimmy Fallon's book club to hitting #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, and about a million things in between. You've achieved so much in your time as an author. Is there something that means the most to you, or like a standout moment where you were like, wow, like that thing happened?
Well, okay. So I definitely will say there have been a few. The #1 on the New York Times list, like obviously every author kind of dreams about hitting the list, period. And Beach Read was the first time I did, and that was mind blowing. And with People We Meet on Vacation, I don't know. It's like you kind of expect things to feel really surreal, and then a lot of times they just don't. And I was telling you earlier, like I almost wonder if I've detached myself from it to be like, this isn't really happening. Like, don't feel too much. It's a lot. It is. But when my editor called me to tell me that People debuted at #1, that was like one of the only times that I really had sort of like my whole body went hot and I started shaking, and I just kind of
love that.
Screamed. But I like my instant reaction was I screamed at her multiple times, no. Like it really was like as if someone had shown up at my door like to tell me something horrible had happened.
That's awesome.
Like, it was so overwhelming. And the Jimmy Fallon thing was really surreal too, to just watch that and just like hear him say my name was really weird, because I think it was weird in a good way where you realize that everybody is just people. Everybody is just people, which is not grammatically correct, but it is what I want to say.
We get it. We get it.
And that's like really helpful, because I think when you're striving and working so hard, you just kind of think everybody else is like so, like Mary Kay being like, oh, I doubt everything I write. All that, like it's just everybody feels that way. Everybody feels that way, no matter how accomplished and shiny they look from the outside. So to kind of feel like, you know, the constant low grade imposter syndrome, and then to have Jimmy Fallon just like saying my name like he has heard of me was like, oh yeah, like we're all just people and we're all doing, you know, the things that we care about and getting better at them. Yeah, and that was really cool. But I think like this is such a long answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's great.
This is so great.
Well, there's kind of a flip side to that, which like my last YA novel, it tanked. It tanked in every respect of the word. But I had this weird, like, surreal kind of experience where it tanked and then Beach Read sold, and kind of right away I knew things were kind of clicking in a way that they never had before. And I was watching things gear up pre-pub and just getting really great press and feeling so much excitement and support from my publishing team, and being like, oh, okay, this is like how it feels when the machine is well oiled and everything's working. And around the same time, like a few other weird, like weird to me, they're not weird to anyone else, but weird little things happened, including a show that I really loved got canceled, which was The OA on Netflix. And it got canceled, and there was this huge movement of people who were trying desperately to save it and like doing all these weird things to just try and preserve this thing that had meant so much to them. And I really felt changed by that, because I realized you can make something really special and really unique, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says about it. It doesn't matter if someone says that there's no value to that, there's no money to be made, there's no way to like commodify this, it's not good, it's too weird, it's too strange, whatever. And I say this now, like, you know, publishing rom-com novels, which are like fairly accessible, but it really was life-changing to me to have this book that I really loved and believed in tank in multiple profound ways. And to realize at the same time I was watching something that I thought was so special and new, not, you know, get to continue on, and to realize like, oh, it's really great when you can get commercial success and critical acclaim and all of that. But at the end of the day, I really believe that it matters that you make the thing that you believe in like kind of a woo-woo way. But like, even if 10 people out there actually like needed that, and everyone else is like, this is weird and I hate it, those 10 people are worth it. And the thing that you need to make needs to be made. And I think that has been like one of the best lessons. So now it's like amazing, because I can look back on this book that just failed and feel like so much love and affection and pride for it, even when like no one really likes it. Like, it's just like, I believe that it needed to be made, and I don't know why, but I believe that.
That's awesome.
I love that
answer.
I love that.
I will say my least popular book is my favorite one. So like,
What
does that say about me? I'm not really sure.
You made something that was so niche, that was so like, this is for this person who's like me.
You know, I don't know. Maybe if I had published it now, like, I don't know.
Maybe.
It's really funny how that happens. Though.
It does. I think it's common.
I know. Okay, so we have got so many great questions from our audience coming in. Yay. So Patty, can you ask a question from our audience?
Absolutely. We do have a lot. So sorry to y'all out there on Facebook. We can't see the names right now. So this is from Facebook. How does your family life play into your characters?
Ooh. Now I'm like, which member of my family is watching this? It doesn't. I think that from my books, you can tell probably that I come from a family with a lot of love in it. And that's like very... I feel very, very blessed by that. But I don't write my family into my books in that way. I haven't written my husband into any books. I don't know if I could. Like, I love the idea of writing a couple who is us, but I just feel like I know him too well that I couldn't distill him into like a character.
I love that.
Too much multitude there. But I do think... I think everything about us kind of makes our way into our books, like, you know, family, passion, like faith, politics, like all of that. Like, I think it all makes its way in. Because it's like you're doing, even when you're not telling your story if you're writing fiction, but all these little details, I don't know, there's still just like a worldview behind every book, I think. And I think that's like a really fun.
Oh, I like that. A worldview behind every book.
Well, it's like you can, you know, with all of y'all, it's like you can tell with your books, like that you are, you know, big-hearted, generous people who are like deep thinkers who like to have fun. And that's like, I don't know. It's like, that's, I think, one of the great things about falling in love with like
that really does sound like us.
Except me.
Really pretty.
The deep thinking thing does not pertain to me.
Some of you are mushrooms, and some of you are deep thinkers.
We're gonna make that our new tagline.
Some of us are about as deep as a puddle.
But those are the really
It's a lie.
It's a fun puddle.
The fun puddle.
Are you tagline one mushroom endless stories better?
One mushroom endless. You're like the
Sorry.
deep end of
You
the
were making
ocean.
this like really great point, and I had to like.
It's hilarious, though, and it's very true.
You went there.
Accurate. It's accurate.
Who's asking the next question?
I think we're moving on to the writing tip. So I do have to say, the way you just answered that question, I jokingly sometimes say, all we have is our own compost pile to write from, right?
Yeah,
so there's
that's
no, right, there's the books aren't
know what-
about us, but they're from us.
Right.
You know what grows
So-
in compost piles? Just saying.
Yes, mushrooms. Yes.
Mushrooms.
Anyway,
Pointing that out.
every week, I am so moving past this. Every week, one of our favorite parts of the show is a writing tip. And I feel like this has been, in many ways, one long, glorious writing tip.
Agreed.
But do you have a writing tip that you like to tell other writers when they come to you for advice?
I honestly, it's so basic, but I do generally just tell people to keep going because I think that fear, like, I mean, watching this, if you're watching this, you realize how everyone on your screen right now just kind of pushes through a fair amount of terror. And like, we've made that pretty clear. So I think that a lot of times that fear of like, I'm not doing this right, or what if I never have another magical paragraph, or all of that just can slow you down. And so I am, for me, again, a big believer in just writing, whether it's good or not, just writing until you find something that makes sense. And I really believe in finishing first drafts if you can, because I think a lot of times you give up on something too soon because of that fear and that block, and you kind of lose your momentum. I always lose my momentum. 20,000 words, like the book peters out for a little bit.
Yes. The soggy middle.
Yeah, it's so hard. Like the beginning, you're like, I'm so excited, I'm writing a book. And then the end, it kind of comes together again. And I think a lot of people just kind of who want to be writing or want to be publishing kind of give up during that sagging middle. So I really believe in finishing it, even if you think it's horrible, because it's honestly probably not as bad as you think it is.
That's such a good point. Emily, can you just come back every week? You're like
I'm
sunshine.
really-
And
I
like,
like join
Amazing.
maybe like the fit, like just join in and
Just add little side commentary. Yes, but the requirement is that we are on the Bourbon Trail. Yes.
I am so signed up
oh
for
my
the Bourbon
gosh,
Trail.
Friends in Fiction live from Lexington or live from Louisville. Yep, absolutely.
There we
I'm
go.
so in.
Don't
I'm so
say
in.
it because we will do it. Like it will.
I'm serious too.
I've been
3 times. I will. Yes.
I've
I'm
never
so
been.
I'm so in. I'm ready to leave right now.
I've been. It's amazing.
It's gonna be
It was
so
on a book
fun.
thing. It was great.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, Emily, that was such a great writing tip. Do you have a book you'd like to recommend tonight? Something you've read recently that you want our viewers to know about?
Yeah, it's not out for a couple weeks, I don't think. But if you're ready to move into the fall spirit, you could read this like the day before you read the Santa Suit. So you can kind of like hit the Halloween vibe before you move into Christmas. But Lana Harper's Payback's a Witch is a really fun.
God, what a great title.
I know, it's so good. It's genius. And I think the sequel, is something about like it's a play on words, we're cursed instead of worse, like for better or cursed or something like that. I don't remember. But it's kind of, I think she pitched it as like Practical Magic meets John Tucker Must Die, sort of.
Oh my God.
I know.
Awesome.
It sounds amazing. These 3 witches who've been spurned by the same man, like kind of set out to like, or the same warlock set out to like teach him a lesson. And it's really magical and fun. And
it's great.
It's great. Yeah.
I love that.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, so now we want to talk about your favorite bookstore, and we talked about it a little ahead of time because I think have all of us been to your favorite bookstore?
No, I haven't.
Oh, well, you must.
That's north of the Bourbon Trail, so this can all kind of get folded.
This can all be full circle.
It's all happening. Yes.
Yep.
And then we can go see Ron in Cleveland.
Yes.
There you go. This is like a book coming together right past the soggy middle.
Exactly. So, Emily, tell us about your favorite store.
Yeah. So my favorite bookstore is Joseph Beth, which there is one in Lexington as well, but there's one in Cincinnati, which is my home store. And it's just amazing. Like it has the feeling of like, I just feel like, you know, you think about the bookstores from your childhood and how like magical it felt to go into them. And like the air had this certain feeling and smell. And as an adult, it's like harder to capture that feeling. And I feel like Joseph Beth, for whatever reason, still has that like little kernel of
I
magic.
love that.
And yeah, they're great. They do great events, and all the booksellers are really nice. Yes. They do great events if you live in the city and can pack the room
There
with
you
your friends and
go.
family. But it is a great store. They have a huge variety, and I love them.
They have great sidelines too, I remember.
I don't know what that means.
Sideline means all the little gifty things.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It is sort of like a Cracker Barrel had a baby.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Yeah, there was one in Charlotte. There might still be one in Charlotte, but I remember going
No,
in
they
there.
closed the
Not
Charlotte
anymore.
They
one.
did. Oh, well, I remember
No,
going
they
in there.
opened for about a day.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I
So
remember
sad.
buying sideliney stuff in there along with books. So
Yeah, no, they
That's
did great
awesome.
sidelines.
Well, you
Now
didn't
we
buy
have to
enough. You didn't buy enough.
obviously not. I know. I should have bought more. It's my
Yeah.
fault.
You alone could have kept the Charlotte
It
store
could have been
open.
you. Yeah.
I mean, if you ask my husband, he would say it's possible.
Well, you're beautiful.
Okay,
You're beautiful self.
enough of this hilarity. Emily and everybody else, stick around because we have one more thing we want to talk about. But first, we want to remind all of you out there to check out our Friends in Fiction Writer's Block podcast. We will always post links under the announcements each time a new one goes out. It's a lot of fun. It's totally different from this show. So if you like hanging out with us here, we know you'll love being with us there. Every Friday. This past week, Ron, Christy, and Patty talked to Christy Barrett and Andrea Katz about Facebook reading groups. And this week, Ron and Patty talked to Nat Philbrick about history. And if you do, and we hope you will, listen to the podcast, like, and subscribe and comment, right? Is that all the things we want to tell them?
All the things.
All the
Yes,
things.
all those things.
Do the things. And
Yeah.
okay, you guys, book club. If you are not hanging out with us yet in the Friends in Fiction official book club, obviously you're missing out. And, you know, we would hate for you to miss out. So you'll have to join. So the group, which is separate from us and is run by our friends, Lisa Harrison and Brenda Gardner, is now 9,000 strong.
Crazy.
How amazing is that?
Incredible.
So on September 20th, which is this coming Monday, Patty will be joining to discuss her novel, The Bookshop at Water's End. So be there or be square. And they have some cool things coming up this fall.
And next week, right here at 7 p.m., all of us host the New York Times bestselling novelist Wiley Cash. He'll be live at an indie bookstore in Charlotte, North Carolina, Park Road Books. And then in 2 weeks, join us as we welcome Debbie Maycomer and celebrate the launch of Mary Kay Andrews' The Santa Suit. And if you're on my Instagram, you saw me put on the hat that we will be wearing. And you know, if I'm going to wear that hat, it is a great book and I love her. So it is that time. It is Santa suit time. All right.
Also, don't forget that you can catch up on all of our past episodes and even watch us live each week on YouTube. Just type Friends in Fiction in the search bar to find our channel.
So Emily, I know we talked a lot about your history and how much how much full of life and fun your family is, but a question that gives our listeners and us so much insight into your writing life is, when you were growing up, what were the values around reading and writing in your childhood?
Oh my gosh, they were actually enormous. I mean,
That's awesome.
This one of my happiest memories probably is my parents. I have two brothers, and we had rooms at the end of a hall. And at night, my parents would kind of like bring out some pillows and they would sit at the intersection between our rooms and they would read to us. And my dad would do all the voices. They read all the Lord of the Rings novels to us, all the Chronicles of Narnia novels. I know like my mom and I read all of like the Black Stallion books together. And like, it was just,
Awesome.
I sometimes still, I think my dad will read aloud to my mom and she'll just like go to sleep and like, he'll still do the voices. And so they were huge readers and I don't know, I guess I got it from them, but at the same time, I was like kind of a late bloomer with reading. And so I think there was also an element of like being a youngest child and not being able to do something. And then once it clicked, I was just so excited I could do it. And so, yeah, I was definitely a huge reader from the time that I could read and even before.
I love hearing those stories. I always love those stories.
Yeah.
That is
Well,
so fun.
Thank you for being here with us tonight. And to all of you out there, we encourage you to grab Emily's new novel, People We Meet on Vacation. I mean, if there's anyone out there who hasn't read it, because I can't imagine there could be that many people who haven't read it, but if you have not, pick it up at your local independent bookstore, on our bookshop.org page, and everywhere books are sold. So Emily, thank you for joining us tonight, for being here, for sharing your time with us. It was such a treat. And we'll see you on the Bourbon Trail.
Yes, thank
obviously.
you so much. I can't wait. Thank you all.
You're doing it.
Good night.
Thanks, Emily.
Good night, Emily.
All right, guys. That was so fun. We'll see you in a minute at our after show where we'll announce our merch star of the week. But come back, same time, same place next week as we welcome Wiley Cash.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And please subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here. Good night.
She was so great. That was so fun.
She was.
How great was she?
All right, Patty had to run out, everybody, because she had a dinner to go to, but she's with us in spirit. And gosh, she was such a great guest. Okay, we've talked about this before, but I was like nervous to meet her because I'm like such a big fan, and I like follow her on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, like and I was kind of nervous to meet her. She was so great.
She was so
she
great.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think you can tell. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but you know, like when we're in the fake green room before the show, like you can just tell like, oh, this is going to be a really fun show.
Yep. I had the same thought. Yep.
Yeah. She was really
She's
good.
good, folks.
She was, because also, before the show, I feel like it's got to be a lot when you're a guest and you come in, because we're all just talking and like, and she just fell right into our rhythm today. I think that's what it is. When someone comes in and they fall right into it without missing a beat, you're like, okay, this is gonna work.
This is awesome. Yeah. This is really great. Okay, well, before we kind of dive deeper into that, we do need to announce our merch star of the week. So the winner of Patty Callahan's not yet released Once Upon a Wardrobe is, drumroll please, Barbara Bankovich Green. So Barbara, thank you so much for sharing your merch. And if you don't have any Friends in Fiction merch, you can get, there's her layout. She's got all kinds of good stuff going on.
Look at it. Yeah.
We have t-shirts and wine sippies that I'm holding mine up right now that you can't see. But, and I think we're out of coffee tumblers right now, actually. So we're kind of, we're rolling out some new products soon, but we are so grateful to all of you out there who buy our merch. So thank you for supporting Friends in Fiction, and it's great stuff. I like carry my cups around all the time, so it's good investment.
Yeah, they are good things. Yeah, that's awesome.
So when are we going on the Bourbon Trail?
Yeah,
I'm so serious about that. Like, I know we were joking about it, but it's just it's beautiful there, but B, like even if you're not a huge bourbon drinker, which I know we all drink bourbon, but even if it's not necessarily the thing you reach for, there's something about the history and the culture behind it that make you fall in love with it in a different way. Like there's just, like I said, I've done it 3 times, and I feel like I could do it 50 more and learn. And that doesn't make me an alcoholic, just makes me, well, maybe it does, but but no, it just, I learn something new every time and kind of fall in love with bourbon country again and again and again. So yeah, we have to do it. I'm serious.
Well, I mean, we're doing so many great events together. You know, and why would we not add that in? I think that's like such a great idea. Okay, someone wants to know the Bourbon Trail.
The Bourbon Trail. Why don't you explain it, Kristen, since you've been so many times?
Since I'm the alcoholic who lives on the Bourbon Trail. Yeah, exactly. So the Bourbon Trail is a collection of distilleries throughout Kentucky, primarily based around Louisville, Lexington, and oh my God, Bardstown is the other town. So like most of them are kind of in that region, and it's a walking trail in Louisville and a driving trail around the state. And so you go from distillery to distillery, and they used to have incentives for going to all of them, like you could get a T-shirt or whatever. But it's just really cool. It's like a way to go see different distilleries that are part of the tour, and it's places like Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, Four Roses. Buffalo Trace, 1792. Like a lot of gosh, my favorite. Why am I forgetting the name of it? Town Branch. So
Oh, I don't know that one.
oh, it's so good. It's made by the same people who make Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale.
Ah.
Basil Hayden. It's
Basil
such
Hayden's one of Will's favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tom loves
it's
Basil Hayden too.
awesome, and you learn about it. It's just amazing. It's a cool vibe, and there's like a lot of farm to table restaurants there too because it's a very agricultural area, and there are a lot of horses as well. So it's really cool. It's just a beautiful part of the country.
I did a really fun event there. I'm sorry, you go, Mary Kay.
No. I was going to say, Tom and I years and years and years ago did a tour of Jack Daniels. And the most tragic thing at the time about Jack Daniels is you're walking, you're up and down, you're smelling, and the town was dry. So you did not get to taste or buy.
That's terrible.
Now I think they've changed the law since then, but that county was dry.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
So you could buy like Jack Daniels chocolates and, all kinds of stuff, but you could not taste at the time. It was tragic.
That's bizarre. Well, I was going to say I did a really fun event in Louisville with their junior league, and I'm like, I can totally see this. Like, this would be a really fun event, and we should bring all of our husbands because I feel like they should have like sort of a support group at this point. Since this has become like at least half of our life.
Yes.
A Friends in Fiction husband support group with bourbon. I think it's a good fit. And actually, this works really well. Our listeners and viewers should actually bring their husbands too, because they probably have to deal with us every Wednesday night. So they should get some bourbon out of it.
We could call them the F&F fellas.
I like it.
You're so clever.
It's funny you said that, Christy, about the support group and this taking up such a big part of our lives. I had lunch with another Orlando-based author yesterday named James Ponte. He's a New York Times bestselling middle grade author. He's great. And I came home and I said to Jason last night, oh my gosh, it was just so nice to have a conversation with another author and like just to talk about like all the things that we're going through. And, it was so nice. Like, I just forget how nice that is. He's like, you do that 20 times a day with these other women. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I do. I mean, I guess I meant in person, but it was like I had just spaced on that.
Well, and also the text chains we're on usually have not that much to do with writing, but with other stupid stuff.
Yes.
Like me waking up with a headache this morning and assuming that I had a brain tumor and, would my publisher publish my book with as many words as I had?
Well, and then and who's going to finish the book? I think of that sometimes. Or like, oh my gosh, I have to finish. Like, I know that this book is not fully fact checked. And what if what if I die and they publish it like this? Like, seriously.
Do you do this? Do you like put your laptop in your car when you're going somewhere? And I like position it in the passenger seat on the floor because I think if I get rear-ended, the laptop is toast. So it will survive. I like strap it into the seatbelt so that it will survive if everything else burns up. How sick is that?
Will asked me about another writer last night, and he said, it was like, I can't remember what he said, but it was like a very specific question. And I was like, I don't know. We're all a little bit crazy. And I think that's...
Yeah, that pretty much goes to the heart of it.
Some of us are crazier than others.
It was not one of y'all. P.S. It was not one of y'all.
Okay. Sure.
Oh, good.
Anyway, well, that was so fun, you guys. I'm starving.
Nice.
I'm sure y'all are too. So
I know, and I haven't had any wine. Okay, y'all. I did a whole show without a drop of wine tonight.
And I gotta tell you, lady, you were on your A game.
Yeah,
without the wine.
You were really, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was the wine or just your A game, but
I don't know. Oh, ladies.
It was those mushrooms. They were just
the mushrooms sprouting out of your face.
And now we have ended how we began.
I have never done mushrooms. I've done wine, but I've not done mushrooms.
No.
Good night, y'all.
What a night. Great job hosting, Christy.
Oh, thanks.
Yes,
that was
Christy.
So fun. Thank you.
That was fun.
And thanks, Emily, wherever you are. You were the best
yes.
guest.
Great. All right.
Good night,
everybody.
Talk to you later. Good night. Thanks, Sean.